Welcome back to another episode of The AIM Show. Have you ever realized that everyone wants to win quick, whether that be business, relationships, or fitness, health? No matter the field, everyone wants to win fast, quick, and right away. But very few people want to stay for the long-term game. The truth is, the short-term game, the short-term hustle might give you short-term dopamine, short-term rewards, but it rarely builds generational change and generational wealth. And it rarely builds a business that matters in the kingdom of God. Today I want to talk about legacy. What does it truly mean to build a business that outlives you? What does it take to create something that is not just successful, but is significant? So without further ado, let's dive right into it. In Proverbs 13:22, it says, "A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children." Now, I want to talk a little bit about short-term and long-term thinking. Everyone, the majority of people, have both. Now, most people get stuck in the short-term thinking and don't think about the long-term thinking. And I kind of want to dive into that and why it's important to elongate the time period that you are working with. Short-term usually implicates very quick, short spurts of focused effort. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Short-term wins, short-term thinking would be like, I want to make money this month, tomorrow, or today. Cash grabs, hype, trendy business models, burnout is very, very similar in the short-term business, in the business sense. Now, long-term is usually more sustainable. It's more value-driven, and it's built on systems, not just on you. Now, I think that this is extremely important to differentiate the two. Oftentimes, we, as humans, move through life on short-term thinking. We think super small. We think, what can I do in the sense of a couple steps ahead of me? And there's nothing wrong inherently, but that causes us to switch from business model to business model and never stick with something for a long enough period of time to see the fruits of our labor that we put in. Most entrepreneurs play business whack-a-mole because they jump from business model to business model. One week it's drop shipping, the next week it's print on demand, the next week it's service-based businesses, and the next week it's growth operating. It literally doesn't matter what you do online. Most things that you see online work. It's just a matter of putting in the effort on one concentrated thing, one product, and one channel. You cannot overcomplicate this process. I see so many people, including myself, get overwhelmed by the details and not start. For this podcasting, I'm not thinking of the short-term sprints of wins. Now, it's nice to have those wins and celebrate the things that you might want to get to the long-term vision. But the long-term vision of everything matters more than the short-term wins that might be monetary. Legacy is not just about wealth. It's about having value. It's about having character. It's about having discipline. It's about having a strong mission that people align with and are very, very connected to. You look at the greats of the great in entrepreneurship. You look at the greats of the great in thinking, and you see that it wasn't all just about money. Now, there are going to be outliers, and it's okay to want money. But you have to understand that money in and of itself is a tool. Yes, it's going to relieve a lot of things, and it's okay to become someone who wants money. But don't make money and don't love money, because the love of money is at the root of all evil. Business can be a very, very powerful form of ministry. It's how you can serve people and create something that outlasts you. I love to think about this every single day. I wake up and think about business because it allows me to say, okay, Alan, what am I serving? Who am I serving? How am I serving them through my business in a form of ministry? I think the best way to do ministry isn't in a way that comes naturally to you. And everyone has different talents and everyone has different things they're called upon doing. Now, one of the things that I'm very, very called upon doing is this podcast. Am I seeing immediate results of explosion, of virality? No. Am I seeking that virality? No. If I can change one person's day, one person's perspective, that's all I care about. Because if I can change one person and get them closer to Christ, I'm doing my duty as a Christian. Peter Drucker says, the best way to predict the future is to create it. Now, on a day-to-day basis, you can ask yourself, what am I doing? And is that in alignment with the person that I want to become? Oftentimes, we overcomplicate things in life. We think, oh, we have to do this thing perfectly. We have to do this thing in a specific way or it won't work. But in reality, the best way to understand and where you're going to go is to start acting like the person before you become that person. Now, it sounds very simple because it is, but that doesn't mean it's not hard. It's hard. In business and in faith, you're creating something that points directly back up to God. And everything that you do should bring back and put back and point back to God. Now, I think there's some pitfalls into short-term thinking that I want to get into. Hustle culture is a very big term that is thrown around on a day-to-day basis. And I think it's a bit dangerous. Now, I love working. Don't get me wrong. And I think that work-life balance is kind of not something that you should be striving for. But I want to talk about this because I think it's important. Because most entrepreneurs want overnight success, and that's not how true impact, true wealth, true change is built, right? Abraham waited 25 years for Isaac. David was anointed king, but waited decades to actually rule. You have to be patient. You can't just expect something to happen right away. In our very dopamine-heavy society that we live in, we expect everything to happen like this, and it doesn't. It takes effort. It takes work. It takes so much striving and effort and inputs to get the result that you want to get to. I want to say something. If you want to become a millionaire and you want to make $1 million a year, that's less than 1% of the population of the United States of America. The top 1% make, I think, around $600,000 or $700,000 a year. If you want to make $1 million a year, that's less than 1%. Now that's less than 1 in 100. That's probably like 1 in 200 or 300 people. Understand that if it's out of 300 people, if you're doing the same things as the 299 people or the 199 people, you're not going to become that one. Now, I know if you're watching this video, you probably have that drive in you. You probably have that feeling that you aren't normal. You aren't built for this life of normalcy. You might feel different. You might look at things differently, and that's okay. I understand and I know how you feel, but we can't get caught up into thinking that it will come overnight, because it won't. It'll take grit, determination, perseverance, hard work, and most of all, faith in God. Business is not about short-term strategies, because when you have a bunch of short-term strategies, you always try to reinvent different things. Now, it's okay to have a bunch of different things in place and strategies in place, but if you consistently have like short-term strategies like, oh, I want to do this, you're constantly reinventing different things and you have a hard time focusing on the core thing. I love to think of one person, one product, one service, one avatar, one channel, one thing. It removes everything else and just does one thing. And it makes it a lot easier because then you don't have to focus on 30 different things. It's very, 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 very boring, but it works. If you have one offer, you have one channel, you have one person that you're selling to, it makes it a lot easier. I think that long-term vision eventually compounds. So when you have something boring, it usually starts off very, very boring. You're doing the same things over and over and over again. You're never seeing the results. And then instantly it goes up because you have the compound effect of doing the same thing over again. You learn from your mistakes. You learn from the iterations that you do. And then you hit gold. I think there's also a notion on fear and anxiety. When you think very, very short term, you start to panic. You're like, okay, I have to do this. But when you trust God's timeline, you endure through it. You're more patient. You're more trusting. You understand that it takes time. It takes effort. And it won't happen overnight. Now, I think it's very important to touch on systems and building things that outlive you in this world. And I kind of want to talk about that. So having a practical strategies, I think, is extremely important. And I think it's very, very potent if you use it correctly. Now, number one is documenting your processes. Now, if you're in a business, you have to have SOPs, playbooks. SOP is standard operating procedure, I think. And basically what that does is you're walking through you doing the thing that eventually you're going to delegate to other people. Now, if you record it, the easiest thing that I can think of is just recording a Loom video of you doing the thing, explaining what you're doing so that you don't have to do it anymore. When you hire people, you can just show them the video, they can learn it, and you have the standard operating procedure. You can have a playbook that people can go back to, a reference book on, oh, what's this problem? They have a full library, a full menu of things that they can go back to. I think it's also important to train leaders inside of your business and your life. Understanding that you can't be the sole person directing everything. A lot of people think that it's just this one person. But if you look at like the greats, they always had a tribe of people around them. I think if you build on principles, not just tactics, that is also very, very potent. If you, like I said before, if you're switching from business model to business model, you're just going off of trends and you never become successful because you switch right after you start, you switch. Now you have to relearn the foundation, then you switch again. Now you have to relearn the foundation and then you switch again. And you never have the growth period because you don't stay in it long enough. After that, when you have understood that and you have become successful with one, then you have to diversify your streams of income and your streams of wealth for stability. Now, connecting this to faith in a Bible verse is Matthew 7:24, and it says, "The wise man builds his house on the rock." In business, I believe that your rock is your core values, core systems, not trends. You're building it on things that will not crumble if that trend dies. There's always going to be timeless things that always work. Usually the most boring things produce the most results. Like, I think like right now, the woo-woo word is AI, right? And I think in like 10 or 20 years, maybe not even that long, AI is just advancing so fast. If you have an AI marketing agency, it's hard to stand out because everyone has access to AI. But if you implement AI in your business to help people make more sales, now you're selling something that has sales, but you're using AI to help you do it. Now you're not selling the AI, you're selling sales. Does that make sense? So I like to think of it in that sense. Rather than selling the thing that is quote unquote trendy right now, sell the thing that is boring, but use the trendy thing to help you do the boring thing. I think like, for example, it's like Chick-fil-A, and that's like the first thing that comes to my brain is it's closed on Sundays, but it's still one of the most profitable fast food restaurants. And that is just based on values, not trends. It's closed on Sunday because they were based with Christian people who wanted to have rest on Sunday. And I think it's immensely beautiful. I think when we think like long term rather than short term, we have to think generationally rather than short term wins and quick success. Now, what do I mean by that? It means that you want to shift from ego-driven entrepreneurship to impact-driven entrepreneurship. Now, what is that, and how the heck can you do that as well? Ask yourself, instead of what will my business look like in a year or 2 years, ask yourself, what will this business look like 10, 20, 30 years from now? And after that, ask yourself, who will carry this forward? Is this even something that 10, 20, 30 years from now you can even see yourself doing? Do you find yourself fulfilled? Do you find yourself like it's creating enough impact? Those are really important questions to ask yourself. How does this align with God's mission for you? How does this align with your mission to serve others around you? Does it? Does it help you serve others? These are all important questions that you can ask to discern if it's the right thing that you're doing. I think oftentimes we get stuck in the short-term thinking and we don't expand the timeline horizon in order for us to look at things from a more bird's eye perspective of life. I think planning, like succession planning, will you raise up people to take on the torch that you want to pass on to the next generation? You teaching them? Are you showcasing to them what you want? Like, for example, the thing that I think of is, what am I going to teach my kids about this business? What am I going to teach my kids about these tactics and these strategies so that they can carry this later in life? A quote by Warren Buffett says, "Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago." And I think that's just very, very beautiful. Now, obviously, it's not the case for every single thing, but the imagery behind that, I think, is extremely, extremely powerful. Now, I think having faith as the anchor to your legacy is the most important part that I do not want anyone to look over. Without faith, your legacy becomes pride. With it, it becomes ministry. Your business can be a testimony. It can be how you treat your employees, how you serve your customers, how you steward the finances in your business. They all can be ministry. Maybe you won't see the full fruit of what you're building currently, but your obedience today is creating shade for the generations to come. And if you stay consistent, stay on top of your game, iterate, change, impact in different perspectives and different strategies, don't try to compete with others. Be in your own lane. We are all unique. We are all different. Everything works. People say don't reinvent the wheel. People say reinvent the wheel. Just understand you're a unique person. You can do anything that you put your mind to. And if you just stay consistent and you stick to one thing or one or two things, it's very, very hard to not accidentally, which is not really an accident, become successful. I think people just overcomplicate it. They want to do 50 bajillion things and they expect the things to happen the next day because they see it online and they think that they can do that. But in reality, they don't see the hard work and the effort and the sacrifice that goes behind it. You see people online, you see people flexing cars, you see people flexing chains, houses, and you think that's what you want. But in reality, the people who are showcasing that is still empty inside. You have to understand that everyone who you see online, they're just showcasing what their online image is. And yeah, money is going to help that, right? Like, I think everyone who could have $1 million or 2 million or 10 million or $100 million would want to have that. But are you willing to have the responsibility and take on the responsibility that comes with that money? Are you ready to take on the responsibility that comes with serving others and sacrificing and doing the work necessary to get to that place that you want to get to? Are you ready? Are you willing to take that sacrifice? Are you really willing to go all in? Are you really willing to sacrifice time with friends and family to go all in on what you actually want? Are you really willing to do that? And most people aren't, and that's okay. But if you really want to understand that the journey is not going to be easy, it's not going to be as pretty as people might seem. But if you stay consistent, you can. And I want to showcase that. I haven't even been anywhere close to where I want to get to in life, but I have to understand that if I stay consistent, eventually, even if I don't get to the exact place I want to get to, I'm still striving for that. And that's all that matters. Striving to get 1% better every day, striving to get and serving every single day that's all I strive for. Just to kind of overall recap what we talked about is understanding that long-term wins are more important than short-term wins. It's okay to have short-term wins. And it's good to pat yourself on the back every once in a while to keep yourself going. But understand that if you want to switch from thing to thing to thing, and you want to have short-term overnight things and overnight successes, it's very hard to accomplish that. So shift your focus from super short-term thinking to more long-term thinking. Understand that systems and values are way more important than following trends. And understand that faith is the anchor to everything. Faith is the foundation to everything. If you're ready to start long-term thinking in your business, not just for yourself, but for the people of God that have called you to serve, I would love to talk to you. That's literally what I try to do. I try to serve entrepreneurs and I try to help them do that kind of a thing. So if you're ever interested to have a conversation, talk about business, talk about faith, talk about life, anything, shoot me a DM, shoot me a message, comment, whatever it might be. The final verse I want to leave you with is Colossians 3 verses 23. And it says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as for working with the Lord, not for men. Now, thank you so much for listening to this. I know my voice seems very monotone today, and I do not know why, but I'm trying to become better and a little bit more articulate. So I've been trying to have longer pauses and not say and ah. So let me know what you want to hear about next. And I'm excited to see you guys. Next episode will be in another location. And I'm excited to see where this podcast journey takes me. So if you want to support, click subscribe, share it with a friend. God bless you, and I'll see you guys next week.